Join me today as I take a trip down memory lane and share some of my biggest audio sale regrets. In this video, I'm opening up about the amplifiers I wished I never sold and why I think they're so awesome. From tone to functionality, I'm going to describe what made these amps special for me. If you're an audio enthusiast or just curious about the world of amplifiers, this video is for you. Now, I'm sure this is familiar territory to at least some of you watching. Swapping gear is part of the fun for many of us. But every now and then, some equipment slips through our hands before you realize what it truly meant to you. Quite some time ago, back in 2005, I purchased my first tube integrated amplifier, and I was instantly in love. I'm talking about the Prima Luna Prologue 2. This unit is compact in width, weighs in about 40 pounds. It's rated at about 35 watts per channel at full bandwidth. It came with the stock Prima Luna pre and power tubes, which I thoroughly enjoyed for their sound quality. The stock Prima Luna KT88 tubes sounded punchy in the bass, had an expressive and silky treble, and a very pleasant sounding mid-range. This amp has the adaptive bias feature. This feature enables you to play with various compatible power tubes without worrying about matching or the manual bias adjustments, as the system adapts accordingly. Tube rollers heaven, you can call it. So I went nuts with it. In addition to the KD88s, I tried various new old stock and reissued power tubes like the 6550s, KT90, EL34, KT76, KT66, 6A7s. I went through some tube rolling on the preamp side as well, and finally settled on some Mullard CB4004 and 4003s. And my favorite power tubes ended up being the Shugwang KT88Z. I remember being wowed by the transformation. The mid-range went from nice and clear sounding with the stock tubes to sounding spectacular with fuller body and more realisms. The high frequencies were more expressive as well. The bass was propulsive and big sounding. Not as well defined as some of the solid state amplifiers that I was about to upgrade to in the future. But the sound signature of this amplifier was so easy to fall in love with. I used to look forward to my listening sessions. The soundstage was wide and deep, perhaps not with that much of image specificity, but big enough to enjoy the presentation. The speakers I used back then were the Harbeth SHL5 and the 4-pi speakers. The 4-pi speakers, by the way, are still my reference after all these years. Why did I think of upgrading from the Prima Luna? While it sounded full and rich, sometimes it seemed a bit mid-bass heavy when powering the Harbeth SHL5, especially with instruments like stand-up bass on intimate jazz recordings. From a functionality standpoint, it did not have a remote control, and it did not have a subwoofer output. When I wanted to use the Prima Luna with my high efficiency 4-pi speakers, and those 4-pi speakers need flanking subwoofers for adequate bass. This amp had so much character though, and brought out the nice textures and body in instruments like the piano, guitar riffs and voices. Listening to some classic rock albums like Electric Light Orchestra Face the Music album, and this album by Bob Seger, The Distance, was so much fun, and the music sounded so fleshed out, full-bodied with warmth. Despite those minor quirks, I still wish I had the space and money to have this amplifier around for its lovely, warm, and inviting sound presentation. So, after a couple of years, I ended up selling the Prima Luna to go for the next amp I want to talk about. This one is a solid state integrated by name, and the model is the Nate XS2. It had all the inputs and the preamp outputs that I needed, a remote control. Power rating was, I believe, 70 watts per channel. And what I liked about this amplifier was really the control it had over the woofer of the Harbeth SHL5. The bass was now taut, very well defined, and had improved nuance and articulation when listening via the Harbeth SHL5. High frequencies were more detailed and yet sweet sounding, with a bit more resolution versus the Prima Luna. The mid-range lost some of that warmth compared to the Prima Luna, but gained some resolution. The name XS2 also maintained the rhythm and timing in a recording exceptionally well. And what I mean by that is that you connected with complex music immediately. It preserved that musical structure and that grooviness, and that translates into that foot tapping involvement. Listening to the piano played by Ruben Gonzalez on the Buena Vista Social Club album is such a treat. The tone and energy imparted was spot on. Soundstage was fantastic, and the image depth and specificity was incredible. There is not much I didn't like about this amp. It ran very cool to the touch. All was good until I decided to try new speakers. Enter the Magnapan 1.7s. I found that the name and the Magnapans were a bit of a mismatch. I felt like I needed more current and power driving the Magnapans, so I sold the name Nate. From then on, I tried many other high-powered amplifiers from Anthem, from Wired for Sound, Peachtree, etc. A few years later, I felt like I struck gold again. Enter the Yamaha AS2100 integrated. This is one gorgeously constructed amplifier. A beautiful beast with velvet gloves to knock you out with amazing sound quality. Plenty of inputs, including a balanced input for those of us that need it, and a pre-out that can be used as a subwoofer output. This Yamaha AS2100 brought out the best so far on all the speakers that I had. Matched well with the 4-pipe speakers, perfect with the Harbeth SHL5, and man oh man, what an excellent match it made with the Magnapan 1.7. Power rating was approximately 100 watts per channel at 8 ohms and double that, 200 watts at 4 ohms. Bass was solid and so well defined with exceptional nuance and articulation. There were other high-powered amps, like I mentioned, I tried on the Magnapans, including the Anthem 220 integrated, the Peachtree Nova 300, the Wired for Sound STI 1000 integrated. These high-powered, high-current amplifiers output anywhere from 400 watts at 4 ohms all the way up to 1000 watts at 4 ohms with low total harmonic distortion, with stability down to 2 ohms. But even with all that juice and power, the Yamaha AS2100 was the amplifier that best suited the Magnapan 1.7s. I was in complete audiophile heaven, enjoying the amplifier's performance. Black Sabbath's Dehumanizer sounded big. The impact of the kick drum and the snare drums had texture and scale. Dio's voice was raw and powerful. The splash of cymbals sounded open and so realistic on well-recorded metal albums like this one. Why did I sell that beauty? I don't know. Probably chasing the allure of some other high-powered amp. Some of you can understand. Some of you will frown and think that I'm stupid for constantly chasing that better sound. So anyway, a few more amps come and go over the years. Some of them solid state, some of them tube designs. And then another beauty of an integrated amp comes my way. Namely, the Audio Research VSI 55 tube integrated. This amplifier is rated at 50 watts per channel. and proved to be quite stable with speakers even dipping below the 4 ohms impedance, like the Magnifying 1.7s. The preamp section had 3 small tubes and the power section had 4 6550s. Good connectivity with plenty of RCA inputs and a summed subwoofer output. Without even attempting tube rolling on either the pre or the power tubes, the sound reproduction from this amplifier was absolutely stellar. Take this album as an example. It's called Ukulele, with Jim Hall on guitar, Washington Grover Jr. on soprano and tenor sax, Chet Baker on trumpet. Vocals by Carmen Cuesta on the track Ukulele. This is a lush, intimate jazz recording that showcases Chet Baker's signature lyrical trumpet and his fragile vocals with remarkable nuance. The presentation via the VSI 55 was sonically rich, atmospheric, with an airy, well-balanced soundstage. Subtle microdynamics were effortlessly revealed, and tone of the bass guitar was impactful. The interplay between Chet Baker and the accompanying pianos and strings was rendered with stunning clarity and spatial depth. Now, why did I let this amplifier go? The issue was related to volume control when I used this amp to drive my reference 4-pi speakers that have a sensitivity of 98 decibels. The jump in steps of volume were too large for my preferences. There are times I want to listen to music at a very low volume, but even the first step was sometimes a bit too high. Even when using the volume control up and down button on the face of the amplifier, I didn't quite have the same problem when driving speakers with lower sensitivity. But since I love my 4-pi speakers so much, I wanted an amplifier that works well at low volumes. So that brings us to the next amplifier that I upgraded to, which is also an audio research. It's the VSI 60 tube integrated. The reviews I read about the VSI 60 didn't seem to indicate any volume control issues with high sensitivity speakers. And since I liked the sound signature of the VSI 55, I was hoping this would work well with my 4-pi speakers. The VSI 60 I purchased were factory fitted with KT120s, similar RCA inputs, and a summed subwoofer for output for my use case, about the same 50 watts per channel. The sound quality was actually a step up from the VSI 55. Along with that golden tone and warmth in the mid-range that the VSI 55 was offering, I was hearing more resolution across the board on the VSI 60. There was much more power, force, and texture in the bass region. Be it kick drums or upright bass, soundstage was ridiculously good, along with superb image depth and image specificity. Seemed like I was having the best of both worlds, tube and solid state. The volume issue was not as bad as the older VSI 55 model, but there was still a little too much incremental volume between the steps for my taste. Again, only when using the high efficiency speakers like my 4-pis. Despite this quirk, I wish I could buy back this VSI 60 amplifier. Listening via the audio research VSI 60 was a visceral and emotive experience. I have moved on to trying separates again, which is now a musical fidelity M6 preamp and the Chord TT power amp. This combination is fantastic and gives me the precise volume control, but I wish I had the means of buying back a few of the amps I mentioned. If you own any of them, hang on to them. What amplifiers do you wish you had never sold? Share in the comments.